Hey, welcome back. So I was asked to do a video on password verification. Uh, Normally you see those websites where the password, it tells you put in a capital letter or a number, there must be at least one symbol, etc., etc., and then it's ticking, and then the password will pass depending on what type of password you put in there. So we're going to do something similar to that. Okay, so let us begin. Now, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. It's very important. It's going to encourage me to make more videos. So to begin with, I want to actually get some icons. So I'm going to go to iconmonster.com. Okay, so I want to get an icon here for the tick mark, the check mark that we're going to be using, so that we know when a user ticks what we want, we show a tick mark. I don't know why the internet is like a snail today. So I'll search for tick here. Let me see what I get with that. Okay, let's see here. A check mark like this one. Very awesomeness. So what I will do is let me get this one. It doesn't really matter here. The check mark. Okay, so we agree with the license, and I like the embedded versions. So I will copy this. Now the reason I like to get the embed version, the inline version, instead of the SVG is because I can easily change the color with this from within the document itself. Okay, so let's make sure Apache is running on your system. Actually, you don't need to run Apache. You don't even need the XAMPP. So I think XAMPP, you can go to sleep. We do not need you here. So create a file in any folder of your choice, and mine is inside XAMPP. So the XAMPP folder is inside a folder called test right here. So I'll open my text editor. Now open a text editor of your choice, Notepad, Notepad++. I'm using Sublime Text. So I'm going to save this document as this is probably the login page or the sign up page. So let's just call it signup.html. Okay, and save that. Signup.html. And I want to run this file, so I will click and drag it to my Google, to my web, to my Firefox here. Bam, there we go. So in Firefox, and there we go. So let's create a very simple HTML sign up page. So we just want the name and the password, because we're just interested in the password here. So I'm going to say HTML like this, and I'll say sign up like that. And then I want to create a form here. So form, obviously the method is going to be post. Let's put post so it can post when we want to. And as the tradition, we have to put an input of submit so that we can actually submit this thing. And here I will put a value for the button as sign up, because that's what the user will see. And then let me put two inputs here. The first one is of type text, of course, for the name, and the name is name. So these things don't really matter. I'll put a break tag here because they're just for demonstrative purposes. I will duplicate this line, and this one is password, like this, and the name obviously will be password. Very good. Now let's put some styles here, a little bit style. So you can put the style as an external file. That's also okay in the header there, but I'll just do it here for simplicity. And I want to style my form. What a lovely word, form. Yes, that way is better. So what do I want to do with this form? Anyway, before we go this far, let me refresh so you see what's happening here. So this is what we've got so far, but I want it in the center and with a few things in there. So first of all, I want to style Actually, okay, let me style the form. So I will say margin auto. This will make sure that it goes in the center. And then I will say width. You have to give it a fixed width, otherwise the auto will not work. So 500 pixels like this. And then I will add some, do I need some padding? I probably do not. So here what I will do is do the form, but then style the inputs like this, form input. And so here I will say border radius of 10 pixels, some padding of 10 pixels to keep it simple, and then some margins of 10 pixels. Interesting. And then border, let's do a solid, thin, and a light gray, hash AAA, like so. Very good. Let's refresh. Oh, there we go. Looking good. Now, if we just to put a title here, I'm just going to put an H2 title here and say sign up. And with that done, let me just add a style, an inline style here, and say font family Tahoma, something much better than the default. Okay, so sign up and we are there. Very good. Let me put auto focus here so that it focuses there. Okay, now one important thing, first of all, before you go any further, is to put required on these things like this, because you're using JavaScript here. Now what required does is when you try to submit this form without entering anything, it will show you these red things and say, oh, please enter something in here, and so on. Do not leave before you enter this. So if I do that and click that, it will show me to enter something there. Okay, but we don't want, if I click here now and click submit, it will refresh the page. Now I don't want it to actually submit if the password does not meet my requirements. Okay, so let's see how we can see what requirements we can try to meet. So let me put a break here and another break. Oh, maybe that's enough. So in here I will put a few rules. Yeah, so I will use a span here just so I can have a container of some sort. And then because we're going to need to read this container using our JavaScript, so I'll give it a class name that is easy to remember. So because I'm going to use this class name specifically for JavaScript, I'm going to preface it with JS like this. JS, I'll just call it rules, something like that. Okay, then here I will put in let's put a paragraph there just so it's line on line. So I will say password must be what was that number? So password must be 8, at least 8 characters long, like this. Let me save that. Let's see how that looks like. Okay, password must be at least 8 characters long. Okay, understood. And then let's duplicate this. Password must have one capital letter. I think at least is important because it tells them that at least one. So password must have at least one capital letter. Password must have at least one symbol. Yes. And also password must have at least one, what else do these guys, what crazy thing do they say? Password must have a symbol, a capital letter, or one number. Yeah, I do hate these rules that they give, but can use it with a tutorial. So Password must have at least. So the idea is that as the person is typing the password here, we see a tick when one of these is actually reached. And then when everything is reached, we can click submit, and the whole thing will actually submit. Yeah. Okay, so let's see how we can fix that. Now we have our tick mark there, which I want to incorporate here. So I am going to try and add that here. So I will copy this here and copy and come back here. And I want to paste it right in here. Wait a minute. I will paste it right here. Boom. Let's go back here a second. Let's see how that looks like over here. So you see a tick mark there. Pretty good, isn't it? So now I don't need this XML stuff here. No, sorry, I do not. And I want to leave a bit of a space here between those two. Okay, that's much better. So it will tick at the top here. Now, if you do want to change the color of this thing, you can put a fill. You say fill is equal to, and then you change the color. Let's say red, for example. This is just an example here, and you see it as that tick mark there. But I think green is more understood as the OK sign, right? So let's put green over there. So it will tick that. Very nice, isn't it? So what we would do is copy exactly the same thing. Hey, how far does it go? Oh, wait a second. Now, before we do all this, let me put a class here as well, just so I can be able to read from this item using JavaScript. So I'll say JS, of course. So this is one row, and the row that I want here is for this row is called 8. I'll just say JS8 like this. It's following that. So you can name these things anything you want, just so you know that this is the one for 8, right? And then also very important here, I will put a space and add another class which is called hide. So that hide is going to hide this thing until we require it. When we require it, we're just going to remove the hide class, and then it will show again. Okay, so hopefully that is understood. This is how you hide and unhide things with JavaScript. So I'm going to copy this and paste it here on the second one, and paste it on the third and fourth, because it's the same thing anyway. And I will change these. Obviously this is not JS8, this one is capital for capital letters, and this one you can write the whole name if you want. This one is for symbol, and this one is for number. Okay, good. Now if I refresh, you see all these guys having tick marks here, but we don't want them to show these tick marks here until things have worked out. So what we will do now is create the hide class. So I'll go here in the styles, I'll say dot hide, and then here I'm just going to say display is equal to none, just don't display, right? And there we go, those things are not displayed anymore, they are hidden. So now what we need to do is just click in here, start typing, and we see these tick marks going in once we hit the mark that we want. So let me show you how this is going to be done. Now we're going to use what are called regular expressions. Yes. So let me give you a slight crash course on regular expressions pertaining to this particular setup here. So let's go back to our text editor here, and let's do a new file here. So if I have a word like, let's say this is my sentence, okay? And then I'll go and say find. So this is in Sublime Text, but every text editor has a regular expression. You just have to know how to get to that. So here I want to see regular expression is actually very powerful. So a regular expression is like a search term. Let me show you how you search normally if you don't have regular expressions. You're going to search, let's say I want this word called my, like this. So I'll type my like this, and as you can see, my results in that. Okay, Simple and straightforward. Then is like that. That's how I find is. So there's is here, there's is there. Both are selected. Now imagine a sentence where there's I say those are my shoes, something like this, and then say these are my bananas. Now imagine this is a very large document and you want to find every sentence that has those and also at the same time has these. So you want either those or these should be enough. Now you can't do this with just searching like this, because I either search for those and I'll get only that, or search for these and get only that. But with the power of regular expressions, you can search for both. So for example, in this case where there's those and these are just different by that E over there, what I would do is put brackets like that, and then I'll put E and O like this. So what will happen is I'm telling it that you can search for this, but even if it just has E or O here, it's good enough. So this is a regular expression here. Now to activate regular expressions, I have to click on this here right there. So you do this differently depending on your software, and I'll click here, but we're going to do it in JavaScript so you'll see. So as you can see, those and these are both selected. If I click on find O like this, you see that both are actually selected, which is very, very powerful here. A way to search. So you can search for very complex things like a word which has a number, or a word which has two numbers and a letter, and so on. You can get very, very complex with these things. So let's see how we can do something similar in JavaScript. Yes. So of course we want to search for, so I'm using Firefox here, and unfortunately what I'm about to do now you can't do in Chrome. You can, but it's a bit tedious. You can open the console like this. I'll click on warnings to remove the warnings. Where are the okay, it's talking about the character encoding. This thing likes to complain. Okay, what I will do is here I'll say metadata like that, UTF-8, so that this error can leave me alone. Okay, there we go. All right, now this part you can do in Chrome as well, but the advantage with Firefox, it has a multi-line text editor. So I just clicked on the side here, because normally what you do is you can type some JavaScript in the console, like for b, let me zoom this in a bit, is equal to 10, something like that. Now if I press enter, then it runs the thing and shows me the result right there. But what I want is, here I can clear the stuff. What I want is to have a multi-line. So I can say var b is equal to 10, and then hit enter, and I can type some other content and then hit run when I'm ready to run, and I'll see the results over here. So that's what I'm going for here. So what I want to do is to show that we can try to match some stuff here. So for example, if I have some text, let's say text B is equal to some text like this, and then over here I want to say console.log. Actually, you don't need to say console.log at this point. I can just say b.match like this, and then put my pattern in there. So it's the pattern needs to have 2 slashes like this, 2 slashes like that, and in here we want to match what we want. Now in order to match text like words, you put the brackets, the square bracket like that. Why is it doing that? Did I press the insert key by mistake? I think I did. Okay, so here what I want is to type A to Z like this. Do we have letters A to Z? And if I run this, you see that I get an array of the letter S which was found. So it gives you the result of what it found. Now it just found S alone, but I want it to look at the whole thing. So I will put a plus sign at the end here to tell it that find one or more. You can also put a star to tell it to find 0 or more like this, and it will find some like that. So now the reason it just found some and not text is because in between them there's a space there, and we didn't tell it to look for spaces as well. So I will put a space just after Z there like this to include that, and if I run it now, you see that it says some text. It has found the whole thing. So let me clear that again. Now if for example I want to, let's say I put a number here, it's not going to find this whole thing, it's just going to end there. So if I click run, I'll get some because there is a number. Now if I want to include numbers, I'll say 0 to 9 like this. Now I don't have to say 0 to 9, I can say 5 to 9 or 8 to 9 or 2 to 3, it doesn't really matter. Then it's going to match if the number is between those. So if I click run now, you see that it finds the whole thing, which is awesome. But now let's try and detect if this thing has a number in there. So b.match, of course, first of all we match this one if there's a number in there. So not 0 or more, let's put a plus sign there, it's very important. Type, and then we see there's a number 3, so which means the result is true. Because if the number isn't in there, if I click run, you see that it comes back with no or new, which means nothing was found. So if we get an array, something was found. If we don't, then there's a no value there. So now we know how to check if the password has a number. So let's try and see if the password has a capital letter. So let's put capital A to capital Z, like so, and hit run. And we get no, meaning that there is none of that. So let's try and put a capital letter there and run it. You see that we find the D. Interesting, yeah? Now let's see what other things we are looking for here. We are looking for a capital letter. We know how to find that. We are looking for a number. We know how to find that. What about at least 8 characters long, right? So this one, we don't need regular expressions. We can just do a very simple we're just going to check the length. So here I will say b.length like that. So we're just going to say b.length is less than or is greater than 8, something like this. That's it. So here I will comment that out and we'll see whether we get a true or false. So let's run and we get true. It's greater than 8. So let's reduce it, and then if I run it, it's false now because it's not greater than 8. So that one is very simple. And what is the final one now? A thimble. So we know capital letter, we know number, we know thimble. So let's see how we get thimble. So with the symbol, we're going to use a regular expression, of course, but this time instead of putting all these guys here inside here, what I will do is I'll just type in all the symbols. I'm sure there's a way to look for all symbols, a simple way, but I can't remember it right now. So what I will do is I'll just put all the symbols that I want somebody to be able to include. So there's a hash, the @ symbol, the exclamation, the tilde key, the star, the and, all these, just throw them in there. And the plus sign, the equal sign. So this is where it gets interesting. So now let's put also the question mark, greater than, less than, the semicolon, full colon, the inverted brackets. Just one will do. Why does it write two? Okay, so now we have all these symbols. Now this kind of creates a unique problem here. So let me click run. Actually, it didn't create a problem. Why does it do this when I'm trying to teach something? Terrible, terrible. Anyway, the idea was that if it causes a problem, let's say I put, I can create a problem actually. If I put underscore and the hyphen, because the hyphen is used to declare a range, like from 0 to 9, from this to that. So it might think that this is a range from this to that. So if I click run, here we get an error, a syntax error, invalid range. So that's what it means, because we're trying to, now the problem is I'm trying to use this as a literal value. So in order to do that, and not as a range, So to do that, I'll just put this slash like this. So just put that slash right next to the symbol you want to be taken as a literal value, and then that should do it. So if I close this and run now, I don't get an error, I get no. But if I have an exclamation mark in my password here and click run, I get the array with that. So I think you do get the idea of how we are going to be able to do this. So let's dive in and create our actual script. Yeah, so let's do script here. Scripting. Let's create a function. Now the reason we have to create a function is because a function can be called at a very specific time. If we just put our code in here without a function, it means it will run immediately we run the page, and that's not what we want. We want this function to be called at a very specific time. That's why we create a function. So check password, that's what we'll call it, just to be correct, true to the form. So you can't put a hyphen for a, you have to put an underscore for a function name. So what we want to get here is the value of this thing here. So the value here will be, there are several ways to get the value from there. Actually, let me use the same ways that everybody needs to use. So I'll put E there to capture the event. But what I will do is I'll give this a class name, the password. I don't need to do that, but this is just one method you can do that. But let's do it the professional way. Yeah, I'll say JS password, just so I can capture it with JavaScript, just like I did with these. And then now on the event, I want to do something on the event, right? So here, down here, I want to have, before I go any further, let me copy this because I don't want to type it again. I will put it right here, and then I will comment it out so it doesn't run. Okay, very good. So here, now that we have our class, there's on, we want to have an event. Whenever an event happens here, we want to run our function to check if things are okay. So let's try that on the change event. When things change in there, check password, and then let's put event in there like this. That's all we need. So now what I want to do is I want to know when this function is triggered. So I'm just going to say console.log and say I will use E. I'll say e.keycode so that it tells me the number of the key that I have pressed. So I'll refresh the page. Oh, so it doesn't disappear there. I was worried. Okay, so now when I click here, I should see a result in the console. So on change, let me do that. And nothing is showing up in there. Okay, so when I hit enter, that's when things changed. So that's not good. So it's saying console.log is not known. So let's refresh again. Let's try again. So it's not doing anything when I do that, unless when I leave and go to another thing, and then it fires and says undefined. Pretty lame. Okay, so what I want to do now is change that. Instead of the on change, let's do it on the key up. So when let's try on the key down so that we see the issue there. So key down, when somebody presses a key, then things happen. So let's see that. Okay, so that's working fine, but the problem is, actually, let's do this. Let it do the E so that we see the actual text, e.target.value. So e.target is the actual item, this one, the password thing, and then we just want to get its value. So let me refresh again and let me see that. So we have a password in here, but for a second, let me remove the password and change it to text so we can actually read what's in there and make a comparison. Yeah. So say A. Now you see it's showing me an empty string here, but I have an A there and I have a B now. Now that's when it's showing me A. And I have a C. Look at that. It's one step behind all the time. So that's not good. So you have to be careful about the on key down and on key up. So it's better to put the on key up so that by the time it reads from the value, the key has already been put in the control itself. So let's try that again. So I will say A and B, C, D. So that is correct now. It's giving me the correct result. So this is the one we wanted on key up. So once we get here, we're going to ask the question. Okay, let's create some variables here. So I'm going to say variable. I would try long. I would just say is long is equal to first of all, before I do that, let me save the value itself, which is this one. So I'll say var text, or let me say password is equal to that, the value in there. Let's trim the ends. Actually no, because someone could use a space bar as the password, part of the password. So I'll leave it without trimming it. So that's the password. So I'm going to say is long is equal to, let's give it a condition. So it's equal to password dot length is greater than 8. Greater or equal to, like that. So this one is equal to this. So let's see if what the console.log says. Let's look at is long. Is that true or false? So let's refresh and let me start there. I say A, we get false. See, until I hit the 8 mark and I get true. So that's good, right? So we'll do this for everything else. So is long is what is the other one? Is a symbol. So let's do all this. Is symbol is number, and is symbol is number, is long, is I keep forgetting these, is capital. So now for these others we use regular expressions, of course. So I will copy this from there, and is symbol will go right here. So is symbol is equal to password dot match. So I'll put password here, password dot match that. So if we do match this, then we'll get a true or false. Now here we won't get true or false, we'll get an array. So which is okay, because when it's false, it's a no object, then it's false. So let's see here. Is number is equal to, we're getting exactly the same thing. Copy, and I will paste it here, but then we change the pattern. So instead of all this, we just say 0 to 9. So if it's 0 to 9, any number of numbers, that is good. And then here is let's paste this here. Password.match is equal to capital, so we use capital A to capital Z. So maybe you want to put small letter as well. Yeah, you can add all that, but you don't actually need to add the plus though, because even though we just have one of those, that should be enough. So we can remove the plus and still be fine, because we just need one of them. That's good. Okay, so all these, so all we need to know is that are all of these true, then we can allow the sign up here. So what I will do here is, let me console.log, but then I wanted to put an object in here. You can do a console.log of an object, then say is long, and then you is long like this, so that you know whether is long is true and all that. So let's try this. Let me type something here, and it shows you that the object is long is false. So we can do this for all the items here. I can just duplicate this and say is symbol, and then same thing, duplicate this, is number, like this, and then finally, not to, I've put two commas there, finally is a capital, and let's do that, capital. So we have a console.log of this this object here, so that we can see everything in here as we are typing. So let's say I'm typing now, I'm saying now, let me close this part here. I'll leave it. So I type A. So as you can see, is long is false, this one is no, this one is no. So none of these criteria have been met. But if I put a number now, let's say 2, now you will see that is number has something else, right? And then let me put a capital letter. You see that now is capital also has something there, and so on. So this is the general idea here. Okay, so let's finish up quickly here. So what I will do is I'm just going to add an if statement and say if is long, okay, if is long, let's do something. So if is long, let's grab this item here, class JS8, this one. So what I will do is say document dot query selector. That's how we select these items. Now it's a class, so I'll use dot and put JS8. So I have that item, I've gotten it, and then I say dot style. Actually no, dot class list. If it's true, then dot class list, I want to remove the hide. Dot class list dot remove. What am I removing? The hide class, like this. Now, once I remove that, else here, I have to do an else statement and say the same thing and just add it back. So if it is true, then I'll have it removed. If it is false, I'll hide it. It's that simple. So let me come back here and refresh the page, close this, and let's see this in action. So I would start typing until I reach the number. And see, as soon as I reach that number, it ticks there. And now if I remove these things, it will be hidden again. See, this is the general idea. So let's do the same thing for all of them. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4. So I just do 2, 3, 4. And then here, I'll just change this to is symbol, is number, and is capital. That's it. And then here I'll change the JS to capital, and then here number. Oh boy, yeah, number, and then this one to symbol. And oh wait, is long. Okay, I think that's about it. So let's try this. Let me refresh that. And then let's try this. So I'll type a password here. So I've only made a few. I have there's a symbol in there, and there's it's more than 8 characters long. But if I add a number, then good. If I add a capital letter, any capital letter, then I get that. Then we can allow this. So how do we allow and stop this? So when submitting here, I can just put an event listener to listen to the form when it's submitted. So which I can do in the JavaScript, or I can do manually here. I'll just say on submit. Actually, let me put that in the form and say on submit is equal to submit, like that. And let me put event. So we want to create a submit function down here that will react when we submit the form. So say submit like this. Okay, so on submit, my battery is running down here. So let me do a console.log so that it shows that now it's been submitted, so that we can see that. So oops, I've clicked on something I wasn't supposed to click. Okay, so if I refresh this and now I type submit, if I go back to the console.log, let me go to the console. So if I'm at the console here and I type submit, oh, because it's stopping me from doing all that, and I type here and hit submit. Oh, because the page refreshes, so we don't get to see this thing run actually. So how do we do this? On submit. Okay, so what I would do is I would just say prevent default. This way we're going to prevent the default behavior of the submit button. So I'll do this, I'll do that, and hit submit, and it is still submitting. Okay, so I guess that doesn't really work. Okay, so let's try a few tricks here. So there's submit here. Let's try return false like this. Oh, capital letter alert. I'll say return false. Now if I just say false here, let me try that. I just say on submit false. Let me refresh. If I click the submit button, let me try again, click. It does actually work. Okay, let's try one more thing and say return false like that. Let's try using return. Okay, so that has actually worked. So now we are not submitting anymore. Oh, my battery is low. So what we need is a way to return either true or false depending on the situation. So what I will do is I will get all these variables and declare them right at the top here. Now the reason I'm doing this is so that they are accessible in both functions down here. So then I will remove everything here and just leave the semicolon like this. This way they are initialized and they are set to no. And then in here we won't have to say var, we just remove the var here, so that when we say is long is equal to, we are talking about these same ones that are here. And then I will copy these guys and put them here, because now they are accessible here. So I will put an if statement and say if is long space and, just like this. So I just put the and symbols like that. So if is long and is symbol and is number and so on and so forth, then return true. So if all this is correct, then we'll return true. And then else, return false. Now return switches off everything here. So I will put an alert here and say alert, please enter, make sure all criteria, is that the correct way? Let's just say all conditions instead of dealing with spellings here. All, wow, that's weird. All conditions are met. Maybe let's say all password conditions, right? And then return false. Okay, so good. Now we just need to call this function here, the submit, copy that, and come up here and say call this return submit, like that. Okay, so let's give it a shot. So I will give my name there, and then I'll put in a password and make sure I meet the conditions: number, capital letter, and a symbol. But before I meet that, let me try and submit. Oops. Okay, so I think I made a few mistakes here. So let's make a few changes to our code. So the first thing is submit is actually it's a keyword in JavaScript. So let's not do that. So let's add another word here to just change that. So we'll say do submit. And let me come down here to the same reference function, do submit, like this. And so here it does, if this is correct, we'll submit. But the thing is, if we don't return true or false here, then it will submit anyway. So I think we can happily remove that. And here, please make sure password conditions are met, return false. Okay, so that works out. So if everything is true, we just don't do anything. If it's not, we'll send these messages. Okay, so I think that should do it. Let's give it another shot, shall we? Okay, so let's type that, submit. Please make sure all password conditions are met. Okay, good. So let's now change back to, okay, before I change back there, let me make sure I put a number, a symbol, and a capital letter, like this, and everything is ticked. Then I can submit. Okay, it's working. So now let's change this back to password. And let's see that in action. So let me recap a little bit what's going on here so that you understand what's happening. So on the form, immediately it submits. Instead of just submitting, we are capturing this event. And here, if on submit we say return false, then it doesn't submit this form. But instead of just outright returning a false, we are calling this function here, do submit, which is down here. And then this function determines whether to submit or not by checking if all conditions are met. Then it returns nothing, which is as good as not having the function there. Then the default action takes place, which is the submit. But if all these are not true, one of them is missing, then we'll have this else statement run, which will alert us to tell us the information, and return false, which will make sure that things don't continue. Okay, and then here we check for our conditions. As we check for conditions, we are changing the values of these variables at the top here, which are required when trying to check whether everything is good or not. Okay, so this is just a front-end validation, of course. So if you're using PHP on your server side, you still have to validate the password to make sure that all those conditions are met, because somebody can easily tamper with this code in the page and mess it up to just make it agree with the situation. Okay, so let me refresh here and type in some actual data. So then I will type in a password here. Let's see, use securely generated password. So that's the securely generated password, but it doesn't have a symbol, so it's disqualified. Yeah. Now that actually happened there where the numbers changed and we didn't see anything. If somebody came here and pasted the thing like this and tried to sign up, it will refuse because none of that was met. So I think what we should do here also is on key up, and we should duplicate this and do the same thing on change, just in case somebody tries to paste. So let's see if that pasting actually works. It doesn't work either. So on change isn't the correct thing to do as well. So let's try and see if there's one event we can use here on end on input. Okay, so let's try on input here. On input like that. If that will work. Okay, so that's working, so that when somebody pastes, if they are not typing, it still evaluates the data. Okay, very good. So here, let's try now. Oops, let's try now with some actual data. My mouse just fell down. Okay, so I will type some stuff here. So there are numbers there, you can see there are letters, and then let's add one more symbol. I'll add the question mark, and there we go, and then we can submit. Okay, so things is looking good. It's saying no symbol there. Okay, boom. Okay, all right, so it is working now. It is submitting when we do everything correctly and taking to the correct thing. So I hope you have learned something with this tutorial. I hope to see you in another tutorial where we do something even more interesting. So